What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Lance Storm, and this is WN420. Today, we are continuing the conversation about medical marijuana in Missouri, and well, you know, let's just kind of get down to it, and that is Missouri's state capital. I just thought it would be really cool to have in the video right now. So if this is your first time here and you're catching this on Facebook, join our group WN420, and if this is on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe, and the notification bell will let you know whenever we drop cool new videos. So let's just get down to it. What's up, everybody? I'm Lance Storm, and this is WN420. Today I have Steve Faber from Columbia, Missouri. He's been an attorney for quite some time and is the well, you have a really solid position with the Missouri Legalization Act.
Well, I wear several hats. It's the easiest ones to describe are that I'm currently the president of the Mid-Missouri chapter of NORML, which is the National Association for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. I think most of your viewers probably know that.
I think they might have heard of you guys once or twice.
Very good. I was also privileged to be the volunteer coordinator for Congressional District 4, at least the eastern side of Congressional District 4. Jeff Mazansky, who I think you know, did a tremendous job on the western end of Congressional District 4, which goes all the way from here, Boone County, all the way over to Cass County, which is on the Kansas border.
Okay, right.
So it was great to have Jeff over.
That's a very large area that you guys cover.
It is. And, you know, I did a terrible job as a volunteer coordinator. However, the volunteers made me look good. The numbers came in for our area. We needed roughly 26,000 valid signatures for Congressional District 4. 20,000 came out of Boone County alone.
Really?
So, despite my malfeasance in office, the volunteers came through and made me look good.
Well, whenever you have a good game plan and it's for a good cause, people really do step up, and
there's a lot of passion involved.
Yeah.
So those are two of the hats that I wear, and now I'm continuing as volunteer coordinator, perhaps in a less organized fashion even before, for educating people about the three initiatives for medical marijuana that will be on the ballot November 6th.
And that's what this is all about here right now, is helping educate and inform the people of what there is going to be on the ballot, what we should be aware of, the pros and cons, and just keep the conversation going about medical cannabis here in Missouri.
Well, first of all, when I go talk to groups about medical marijuana, it's a little frustrating for me because the first job is to tell them that medical marijuana helps people who need help. And so many different ailments respond well to marijuana. And if you don't know that, you haven't been paying attention. Hope that I don't have to explain to people are all the different ailments that respond well to marijuana. And in the initiative petition for Amendment 2 that will be on the ballot in November, it enumerates the medical conditions that will qualify. And I hope to be able to find that for you very quickly. But what I like about it is that there's a catch-all at the end. So after it enumerates things like glaucoma, epilepsy, chronic pain,
cancer,
and specifically, even though research has been showing that, especially in Israel, that certain types of cancer tumors are reduced in the presence of cannabinoids, it's been known for a long time that if you're going through chemo and you have loss of appetite and nausea, that responds very well to marijuana.
Yeah, you got cancer and you're going through chemo and you can't eat, and you maybe you smoke a joint or a bowl or something. Next thing you know, you're chowing down on that spaghetti. You know, that's kind of a good thing.
Munchies can have a beneficial effect in the right setting,
Right.
for sure.
Nutrients are very important.
The other ones that are included in the initiative petition: intractable migraines, any chronic medical condition that causes severe persistent muscle spasms, MS, for instance, Parkinson's. And what I found, it's interesting that a lot of the motor function ailments respond similarly to marijuana. There must be I'm no doctor, I'm an attorney, but it seems like there must be a common thread to those motor
I'm not exactly sure what, because like you just said, I'm not a doctor, I'm just a guy with a camera, and that doesn't qualify me to make any medical pass or judgment, but what I'm thinking is that it has a lot to do with the cannabinoid system. You know, it just works in conjunction with the nervous system. I've been wondering for a while if cannabis can't help with a lot of autoimmune diseases that we wind up having and not being able to figure out ways to fix, because you know, it's an avenue we haven't been looking at.
PTSD is mentioned specifically, as well as other psychiatric disorders. You know, I've run into people who have social anxiety, you know, all sorts of things like that help. Right. Marijuana helps with those kind of things. Any terminal illness, of course. I mean, anybody who wouldn't give anything to somebody who's dying anyway, saying, "Oh no, that'll harm you," right. There's a real disconnect in logic.
Yes, there is. I mean, I have to agree with that.
And then I mentioned before, in the professional judgment of a physician or any other chronic, debilitating, or other medical condition, including but not limited to hepatitis C, some things I cannot pronounce: inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, Huntington's, autism, neuropathic sickle cell anemia, Alzheimer's, chronic wasting disease. I thought that was for deer. I don't know.
You know, I thought that's what they had last year.
So anyway, basically, if your physician thinks it will help you, sure. And why not try it? Because it sure isn't going to harm you.
Right. You know,
I tried to get addicted and overdose to marijuana. All it did was make me fat.
You should have stayed out of the fridge. You know, so basically what they're saying here is, if your doctor says that that cannabis can help you, it doesn't matter what the ailment is, as long as the doctor feels that cannabis can help you, then they can write you a prescription for it.
Right.
I mean, your podiatrist or your ophthalmologist or your family physician, right?
Correct.
That's cool. You know.
Right.
That's really cool. One of the questions one of my viewers brought to me was, where's the money going to be spent, redistributed, and who benefits from this?
Amendment 2, proposed Amendment 2, which is the one that
they specifically asked if you had a pie chart, specifically raspberry is what they said. You got to remember who we're dealing with.
I wish I had a pie chart. Well, ours is very simple. It's got a 4% tax.
Okay.
And after expenses that are limited to a very small percentage of the 4%, right, can be used for administrative costs. The rest of it goes to veterans' welfare programs.
So out of that taxed 4%, a small portion of that goes towards administrative actions, making sure that everything runs proper. To administer that 4%, to make, I mean, somebody's got to write the checks and say, okay, this veteran's home or program gets some money. Somebody's got to be paid to write those checks and so forth. So administrative action there.
And I wish I could tell you the exact percentage, but it's minuscule. Of that 4%, the amount that's allowed to be spent for administration.
Okay.
So,
I thought
so for
I had
Amendment 2,
heard
it's very
somewhere
simple.
it was something like less than 5% of that 4%.
That sounds
something
right
like
to
that.
me. Yeah.
That's what I had heard.
5% of 4% is 0.02%. I don't know, it's a small.
So now we need to talk to a mathematician. Great.
I'm a calculator cripple, and marijuana does not help that.
I believe that's not entirely true. I know quite a few people who are very in depth into the cannabis industry, and they are super fast on their feet with the math. So I think we just got shorted on that.
Well, my younger son is one of those people. He manages marijuana farms in Colorado.
Right.
And his subspecialty is compliance, but compliance touches every aspect of the industry.
Right.
And he's into metrics, so he can tell the investors or the owner of the farm or whoever he's managing for, if you use this method of planting or the cost of pesticide here, at the dispensary, how much that's going to affect the cost per gram.
Right. Wow.
So he does that kind of stuff. I don't know
that's
how.
statistician stuff right there.
Yeah.
You got to have that though. It helps you know and be able to project your annual income, cost, and expenses. That's the type of people that you need to have on your team, and that's golden.
So getting back to your question, the money, the three initiatives on the ballot all have different tax rates and
That they do.
and propose to spend the money in different ways. For instance, 3, which we call the Bradshaw Amendment, has a 15% tax.
The legacy bill.
Yes, yes. And that 15% tax is earmarked to create and fund a medical research center to cure incurable diseases. Well, everybody would like that, of course.
I personally, my question on that is, are they trying to contest the CDC? That every time I hear that, read that, think of that, I feel like it's somebody who's trying to make a corporation that is quite comparable to what we already have, which is the CDC out in Georgia.
You're hitting it on the head. In my own humble opinion, this gentleman Bradshaw, where Amendment 2 from New Approach Missouri has thousands of volunteers and thousands of contributors. There is only one contributor to Amendment 3, and that was Bradshaw.
Right.
The 15% tax goes to create this institution. And in his initiative, he is the only one who can be the director of the institution.
It's interesting.
So, and he is the one who appoints the board of directors of the institution, and that board of directors board decides who is a qualifying patient, who gets to grow, and all those issues.
So it's not a doctor that gets to decide if you're worthy of the medication or not.
Bradshaw does have a medical license.
Okay.
But
so we can only speculate that he would put medical professionals on that board because it's not written in there who he is going to apply to that board.
Right. One would hope.
Right.
So the other major difference besides the 15% tax and the 4% tax, 4% going to veterans, 15% going into Bradshaw's institution. Mm-hmm. Another marked difference is 2 is the only one that allows patients to grow their own medicine.
Right.
And it is limited.
That's a big thing, though.
It is. 'Cause some people, marijuana is expensive.
It is.
When it's grown legally and you know what the content of it is, it hasn't been sprayed with paraquat or whatever, that's why I want a regulated industry. I want to know.
You want to know what's inside it.
Exactly. I want to know that, because there's testing requirements
Yes.
in two. It's like in Colorado, it's tested for mold, it's tested for content, it's tested for pesticides.
For mites, for all sorts, you know.
Right,
And,
things that you don't want.
right, and it should be tested. There's
Sure.
been a number of cases throughout the past few years where they've had to do even recalls on batches, like out in California. They've had to, I want to say, terminate the batches, but they've had bad batches, and the fact that they had a system set up to be able to say, hey, this is a bad batch, we need to get it off the shelves, that saved so many people health problems, and also, you know, just it looks good on. I hate to say it, if you have a mess up and you call it, you say, hey, we had a mess up, it looks good on your industry to be able to own up to it and do something about it. So having an industry that we don't have those safety programs set up to ensure health or healthy products, that is, that's insane. You know, we have the FDA for a reason, you know. I mean, maybe everybody doesn't agree with the choices they make, but you know, that doesn't matter. We have it there set so that we can have safety with the things that we consume. The same should apply to this.
Right. Of course, I agree. I should probably mention the third initiative that'll be on the ballot.
Proposition C. This one
And
is
it gets a letter because it's a statutory initiative as opposed to a constitutional amendment initiative.
Okay.
So it gets a letter, it's C.
so that's the difference right there.
Right.
The amendments,
Constitutional amendment cannot be changed by the state legislature.
and in a statutory can.
So if this passes November 6th, the one with the most votes wins. So it's important to only vote for the one best one,
Right.
which is, of course, I believe is 2.
And
And I'm willing to back that up anywhere. The C is not bad. It does not allow for patients to grow their own, however.
right.
But from November 6th to when the legislature sits in January, they can completely throw it out. Change it, do whatever they want, restrict it. And they've done that kind of thing before where a bill has been introduced
That's
for medical
what
marijuana.
I was going to ask. It reminds me, Proposition C concerns me because it reminds me of HB 2238, I believe it was, the hemp seed bill.
Right.
That, you know, there might be 11 red card holders, but none of them have received any medication in how many years? I'm afraid that Proposition C could wind up being a thing like this.
Well, and if it follows what the legislature has done in the past, for instance, a bill was introduced for medical marijuana. By the time it got through committees and amended, the only qualifying patient was someone who was terminal with cancer, and that didn't pass.
And so even that one patient.
I think they believe that if someone is dying of cancer and you give them marijuana, it's going to make them sick.
Do they not realize it could make you better? It's an option.
Someone who is terminal has been told they have so many weeks to live. Why? You know, there's
That reminds me of the story Jeff told me about the guy. You know, I just was speaking with Jeff the other day, and he told me a story about a guy who come up to his petition line and said, "Hey, man, I've got some more people coming down here." But the thing about it was that a year and a half or 2 years before that, the doctor had told this guy that, you know, you got a couple weeks, get your affairs in order because you're going to go. So their family went across state lines, got the cannabis oil, brought it back to him. 2 years later, he's standing in line signing a petition, you know, to legalize cannabis. And you know, it just makes me think.
I was brought to tears on a regular basis when I'm out collecting signatures.
I believe
people would, you know, share their stories with me.
I have a story out in Springfield that I have to go collect, and I'm looking forward to it. But one of the things about going and hearing the stories is you never know how the story is going to affect you. You know, it could make you happy, it could make you sad. But at the end of the day, most of the stories that we hear about cannabis, well, they may make you sad throughout it, but at the end it makes you happy because there's normally a positive outcome. You know, I mean, whether it be they're not in as much pain or none at all, they heal, or they are just in less pain on their way out. And all those are positive things.
Sure.
You know?
And one recurrent thread is the antithesis of calling marijuana a gateway drug when it's actually an exit drug.
Yes, totally. I've said it for years that the biggest gateway drug that we've had is Skittles and M&Ms and pill-shaped candies. It drives me up the wall that for the whole time. And Halloween, it's such an amazing thing. That's so cool. But at the same time, it's just a big bag of, here, take these candies that look like pharmaceuticals. I have a problem with that. I mean, I love candy, but I don't like indoctrinating our little humans into believing that pill-shaped candy medication is the way to go with yourself, you know. Diet, exercise, these things matter. Proper using and encouraging and growing your endocannabinoid system and making it stronger is also something that us as humans should be doing as well. And so that's why I feel that ending the prohibition of cannabis is detrimental to our society. You know, we've got people with a lot of mental problems that I'm starting to think that maybe cannabis could help them with.
Well, at least, you know, it calms people down. You know, I tell people, you know, 5 drunk dudes will start a fight. 5 stoners will start a band.
That's true. That is real true. I can think a couple of bands like that. You know, I wasn't a good enough band guy to be, well, you know, otherwise I'd be doing something else, I guess. But, you know, I know a lot of guys who have chose that route as opposed to, you know, doing other things. What I'm saying is I've known quite a few people to go off and smoke weed and become bands or a YouTube channel per se, or you know, just really get into the car game and go pursue it. You know, it's I've found that with a lot of people, it helps them find the focus that they haven't had before.
Sure. Well, what else can I tell you about November 6th?
November 6th, I was wanting to know if there was anything if this touches down on anything industrial, if it helps open the doorways to anything industrial.
For industrial hemp or
Yes. Industrial hemp.
Industrial hemp. This doesn't deal with industrial hemp, and I suppose if I read it carefully enough with that in mind, I would imagine if you can grow marijuana with THC in it,
Right.
You could grow marijuana without THC in it. You know?
Yeah, it was kind of part of the
That's
thing
an
that I was
interesting
looking
question,
at
yeah.
is because if a card holder is allowed to grow 6 plants, well, they're not necessarily specifying high THC or low THC or industrial hemp.
But I don't think 6 plants will be enough fiber to like build a car like Jay Leno did. He has a car made out of hemp. Did you know that?
Well, I don't know about Jay Leno, but I know that Henry Ford built one made out of hemp a long time ago.
No, I didn't know
and he ran it off of
I have a
hemp.
pair of hemp socks. I'm very proud of those.
You know, I have a hemp backpack.
Do you?
I do.
I have backpack envy now.
Well,
I would just like to encourage everyone to please vote for 2. Yes on 2. Don't vote or vote no on the others, because one of them is 2 is patient friendly. It's grassroots based. It's not designed to make any individual wealthy. There's an even playing field here on the criteria for who can who will be selected for a license if there's more applicants than there are licenses available, for instance.
That is a concern as far as who's going to be. How are they going to be picking the dispensary owners? Is it going to be a lottery?
Well, no. There's to be established a system to numerically score competing medical marijuana licensee and certificate applicants.
Okay.
And there's listed here 10 factors. The first one is the character, veracity, background, qualifications, and relevant experience of the principal officers or managers.
In other words, everybody involved in it has to have, or ideally would have to have some history or understanding of how that works.
Right. The business plan, I'm going to not read the whole thing. I'll just touch on the topics that are listed in each one.
That'd be great.
The business plan, and plan to ensure safety and security of qualified patients and the community. Site security, experience in a legal cannabis market. Then there's testing facilities need a certificate as well, and there's
now, would they have to go out of state to get that certificate, or is that something that they could earn here in Missouri?
The testing facility?
Yes.
That's not addressed here. So that could be addressed in regulations, but I don't see why a testing facility couldn't be used out of state.
Okay.
But hopefully there'll be testing facilities
Right. We need them
more
here.
available.
New jobs overnight.
It's what I call the pick and shovel businesses.
Right.
In the gold rush, it was good to be in the pick and shovel business.
Exactly.
There's all kinds of ancillary businesses that we don't even realize are there.
Right.
For instance, there's companies in Colorado that go to your farm at harvest and dispose of your green waste and prove to the state that you didn't repackage and sell it or whatever, that you actually disposed of it.
That's really good.
Potential for positive economic impact in the community. Capacity or experience with agriculture. Experience in healthcare. In the case of medical marijuana infused products, manufacturing facilities, experience with food and beverage manufacturing. So,
Very good. And that's good. The way this is written out, it is establishing care. It is establishing the fact that there's a level of security to make sure that all of these things, all of these positions, I should say, are properly taken care of. That the care, the safety, and that the patients, at the end of the day, get the best quality product available. And I like to see that in an initiative. That's something that I don't necessarily see in this one over here. And what concerns me with C is it going to happen? They could change it up last minute, and the next thing you know, we
don't have anything.
We don't have anything. So it is really important for people to not vote yes on all three checks, but pick the one that is best for the fellow Missourians. And just like many things in life, there are a lot of opinions, and you're going to hear different opinions from my channel until the election happens, and hear opinions from people. And I want them to tell you, hey, this is the way I would vote, because that's not what I'm here to do at this point.
One thing I want to mention before we wrap up is this resolution. I live in Columbia, Missouri. I came here to go to college and never left. That was more than 10 years ago.
Was it?
A lot more than 10 years ago. But I love this community. I love this town. And it's the center of the universe as far as I'm concerned. I've lived in several different places. But the city council several months ago passed a resolution. I had it right here. I love having this copy. Unanimously passed this resolution to endorse medical marijuana, and specifically endorsed the ability to grow, for patients to grow their own.
That's cool.
Which, like I mentioned, proposed constitutional amendment number 2 is the only one that does allow you to grow your own.
That's really cool. Now, there's some of my audience members have pushed me to ask some other questions about Amendment 2, but the one question that I am not going to ask today, I believe there's somebody who's a little bit more fit to talk to about it, and you've suggested that I speak to him. So in time, hopefully we can get to that interview and find out the answers to the other questions that have been presented to me, and I think that every question should be fielded and dealt with. But if you guys were waiting for that question, it's in the video, so we appreciate it.
And I don't mind ratting out Dan Viets at all. He's been working on this project for 40 years.
Yes, he has.
He knows more about cannabis laws and this initiative in particular than anyone. And the question...
Did he write this initiative himself, or
he was involved in the writing of it?
It was him and a team?
Yes.
That is cool. I'd really like to sit and talk with him about it a little bit. Without saying that without personally endorsing this one, I think this is a pretty good bill. The biggest problem with Missouri and their cannabis problem right now is the fact that we have patients who are not able to receive their medication. That, to me, is the biggest problem. We can deal with the industrial side of cannabis next. Let's get the patients the help that they need.
I agree.
And
Lance, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for opening up the doors and allowing us to come in here and learn a little bit more about what's going on with Missouri's medical marijuana industry. And guys, it's up to you to hit the voting box on November 6th, right?
November 6th and October 10, which is just a few days away, is the last day to register if you're not registered to vote. And by the way, if you have had a felony conviction in the past and you are off paper, you can now go register. You can go register to vote.
That's cool.
So
that is cool.
Remember that. It's important to get registered and get to the polls.
Yes, it really is. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Lance Storm, and this has been continuing the conversation. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. Have you got anything you want to say to him last?
Yes on 2, no on 3 and C. Tell everybody you know and love to do the same thing. Thank you.
See you guys. Thank you. Share this video with your friends. Later. So I just wanted to say thanks again, Steve, for having us out and explaining a little bit more about what, Amendment 2 is all about. And I think it's going to be a really good thing, but it's up to the voters to decide, the citizens of Missouri. And guys, I really appreciate you. Thank you. It was amazing. Make sure to be a registered voter, and don't forget to do your due diligence. Research the 3 options that we have for medical cannabis in Missouri, and pick the one that is going to be best for the fellow Missourians, for everybody, for our future, because we don't know how long it's going to be before they end the federal prohibition and make it legal throughout. So we got to take our baby steps for the time being. I'm Lance Storm. This is WN420. Stay beautiful, stay positive, and do something nice for somebody. Have a wonderful night.